Hello and welcome. It's time to take another trip back to the 80s as we're going to be talking about my science project. My Science Project was released by Touchstone Pictures back in 1985, so exactly the same year that The Black Cauldron came out, and this was also only the fourth Touchstone picture to come out from the company. But it did not do well at all. It was basically compared to a really cheaply made Back to the Future ripoff. So if it's a cheaply made Back to the Future ripoff, does that mean I can compare it to Rick and Morty?
I've heard enough.
Anytime I can make a Rick and Morty reference, I'm going to use that. The basic plot is that this group of high school seniors are trying to find a science project for their class. So, first, a couple of problems with that. Everyone looks way too old to be in high school. Before they were asking about prom, I thought that they were in college. And there's this weird subplot of them finding this weird time machine for a science project, and all he does is dig it up. He doesn't even put anything together. He just finds this item that he found trespassing and is like, here you go, here's my project. Great, you're gonna get an A. I didn't even do science projects in high school. I only did science projects in elementary, and when I went to elementary and when I went to high school was only about 15-20 years after this film was created. Did everything change so quickly? I'm not sure. So right off the bat, there's so many issues with this film. The interesting thing too is they use a lot of references to their Star Wars references. They talk about going and watching TV shows back then that they're missing out on. Little pop culture references all over the place that makes this film extremely outdated. I also don't understand about 80s films why the nerd stereotype was the way it was, and it just seems like a completely different world to me. And I'm not even that young compared to the teenagers of the 80s. I was a kid in the 90s. So when they were all teenagers in the 80s, they were all in their 20s when I was a kid in the 90s. Which doesn't seem that far-fetched. It was literally only 20 years passing. But yet everything is so different from the 80s from the 90s, and it just seems like a complete time capsule. Once again, these kids end up traveling into another dimension where they end up with dinosaurs. What is up with dinosaurs? Why were dinosaurs so popular within the mid-80s to early 90s? Actually, continuing onwards, what makes dinosaurs so popular? Before Jurassic Park, we had them all in these weird comedy films that were just failures. But in this one specifically, did they give the inspiration for Ellen's Energy Ride? Because I feel like that's what I started to watch with this. It's just weird watching it. It really is. It's a short film. It's only an hour and a half long, and the plot is so simplistic there really isn't that much of a story. It's more focused on the action and adventure of it, but it's really not that bad a film. If you just want to watch a video and not think about things, this is a good film to watch. The characters don't really have any dimension to them. They're really stereotypical of the time period. Because I didn't grow up during that time period, I don't know how true it is, or if they are really exaggerated, or nerds really the way they were back then, or is it just exaggeration? Same thing with the muscle heads that just want to work on cars. The one thing I do like about it is that the nerdy girl and the muscle dude end up getting together. So that's one thing that I say is a really cool feature back then, because it shouldn't be a big deal, but the 80s films make it seem like it is. So that's one thing I will give them credit for. Otherwise, there's nothing really special about it. The dinosaurs showed out to me the most. Everything else was a little forgettable. So I wanted to take a look because the Touchstone fixtures are when they want to make things a little bit edgier from Disney and separate themselves. Some of them are fantastic. Others like these are really forgettable films and no one knows about them. So I really enjoyed watching it. I did. It was an interesting thing to see, but I probably wouldn't put it on again. Tomorrow though, we're going to be taking a look at a film that was from my childhood. I do remember James and the Giant Peach. So stay tuned. And as always, I hope you have a magical day and I will see you real soon.